Good evening. We are your hosts for Resistance Chicks, Leah and Michelle. So I go to press record and I always like to ask Leah beforehand what she's got lined up, because usually we talk about a lot of these things ahead of time. And instead of telling me what it is, she said, you're just going to have to roll with me because Illinois is in some financial abyss. So I know nothing about this abyss, so we're going to let Leah. Today is the 2nd of July, 2017.
Yeah, so here's what happens, children, when you exceed your credit amount.
Yeah.
And then you continue to charge up finances without any budget whatsoever to pay off all of your problems.
Kind of like all of government.
Yeah, so this is not just an Illinois problem. In Maine, Connecticut, and Chris Christie's state, his state is in a financial emergency. So first Maine, then Connecticut, and finally on Friday, confirmed the worst case outcome many had expected. Illinois entered its third straight fiscal year without a budget. Imagine if you and I were to do this. After Republican Governor Bruce Rauner and Democrat lawmakers failed to agree on how to compromise over the government's chronic deficits, pushing it closer towards becoming the first junk-rated U.S. state. Meaning, you stink, we can't give you any more credit.
You stink, Illinois.
Millions of dollars in just interest payments. Seriously. Then came the begging. According to Bloomberg on Friday, Illinois House Speaker Michael Madigan, a Democrat who controls much of the legislative agenda, pleaded with rating companies to temporarily withhold judgment. We've, 3 years we've been able to, we haven't been able to figure something out, but please, work with us as lawmakers negotiate it. Much work remains to be done, the Democrat said on the floor of the House Friday before the chamber adjourned for the day. We'll get the job done.
Probably not.
Meanwhile, Sydney is really upset about this, and so I'm going to throw down some treats, see if that makes her happy.
Probably not.
Meanwhile, the state remains without a spending plan. Its tax receipts and outlays mostly on autopilot, leaving it with a record $15 billion in unpaid bills, as it spent over $6 billion more than it brought in over the past year. So here's the thing, children, when you want to do so many things, like Sydney here,
carry on, real deal,
and you don't even bring in enough cash flow to pay for it, you're going to have some issues. There are dog treats on top of the piano.
I know.
You can throw them at the dog.
Come on, outside.
She doesn't want to go outside, just like the lawmakers in Illinois really don't want a budget, okay? It spent over $6 billion more than it brought in, and with $800 million in interest on unpaid bills alone, you guys. That is insane. Imagine if you have a family budget, okay, and you are paying hundreds of thousands of dollars just in interest. You're going to have to come up with a budget and come up with a way to fix this problem. They're actually, what they really want is the government, the federal government, to bail them out, I'm sure.
The federal government bails out everybody else.
Has devastated social service providers, shuttering services for the homeless, disabled, and poor. The lack of state aid has wreaked havoc on universities, putting their accreditation at risk. Here's the thing. If you overdo your budget, you can't pay your bills, and what you really want to pay for, you can't even pay for. So the simple things that you want to pay for, you can't.
Right.
Imagine what you could do with $800 million that you're just paying in interest because you couldn't stick to a budget. And I gotta tell you, yes, it's mostly the liberal lefties who really want all these programs, and there's no way to pay for them. It boggles my mind, you guys. This is why Bernie Sanders couldn't be elected, because all of his programs, literally, his budget outspent the entire United States GDP. Sorry. I love you guys, but it ain't gonna work.
Yeah, because we can just keep printing money.
And that is the only way it would work. And in that case, you are absolutely right. It could work if you just did that, but
it won't work if you just do that.
Do it. It'll just make the system fall.
You know what? Here's the thing: we're already doing it at an exponential rate.
Right.
I was listening again to The Creature of Jekyll Island. I think in the 30s, the silent tax, which is inflation through the Federal Reserve.
The silent tax.
50%. That's 50 cents for those of you that don't know. Of every dollar was going to the silent tax. 50 cents. It's not. I don't think it's quite that high right now, but it's really close. So here's the thing, guys. When you keep printing more and more money, our dollar is literally now, it's worth nothing. I think we're at almost 100%.
And the only
maxed it out
people that get anything out of it are the rich. So they're really super rich. Okay, so here's the thing. However, in a shocking development, just hours remaining before the midnight deadline to pass the Illinois budget, the Illinois imminent loss of its investment grade rating, federal judge Joan Lefkow in Chicago ordered Illinois to come up with hundreds of millions of dollars it owes to Medicaid payments that state officials say the government doesn't have. The Chicago Tribune reported Judge Lefkow ordered the state to make $586 million in monthly payments from the current $160 million, as well as another $2 billion toward a $3 billion backlog of payments, a $167 million increase in monthly outlays the state owes to managed care organizations that process payments to providers. While it's no secret that as part of its collapse into the financial abyss, Illinois has accumulated $15 billion in unpaid bills, the state's Medicaid recipients had enough and went to court asking a judge to order the state to speed up its payments. On Friday, the court ruled in their favor. The problem, of course, is that Illinois can no more afford to pay the outstanding Medicaid bills than it can to pay any of its $14,711,351,443.90 in overdue bills as of June 30th. Yes, that is true. The backlog of unpaid claims the state owes to managed care companies directly, as well as to doctors, hospitals, clinics, and other organizations, is crippling these providers and thereby dramatically reducing Medicaid recipients' access to health care. Friday's court ruling, which meant that the near insolvent state must pay an additional $593 million per month, may have been the straw that finally broke the Illinois camel's back. Friday's ruling by the U.S. District Court takes the state's finances from horrific to catastrophic. Comptroller Susanna, and she has a little video on YouTube or Twitter if you want to watch. She talks about this whole thing. As a result of the court decision, payments to the state's pension funds, I read that you might only get 30 cents to the dollar. As if the governor and legislators needed any more reason to compromise and settle on a comprehensive budget plan immediately. Friday's ruling by the U.S. District Court takes the state's finances from horrific to catastrophic. Okay.
Here's the thing. When they're talking about cutting the pension funds, and I'm not even sure that I'm not going to go there, but here's the thing. When the people that have paid into their taxes are not able to receive their money back.
Well, these are workers' pensions, so they're pensions for the workers.
I know, but what I'm saying is these people have worked hard their entire lives. And they're only going to get 30 cents on the dollar because those are the people that are going to get cut. Meanwhile, people that don't work hard and pay into the system are not going, they're the ones that are still going to get paid, and they're still going to get money, and they're still going to get their funds, because you can't cut money from the poor, from the welfare, from whatever. That's untouchable. They just continue to get everything. So, but where they're going to make their cuts are going to be the everyday Joe, because they have more.
So the state countered that it could maybe afford $75 million a month, but not, you know, the full $583. But what's interesting here is it says without a budget, the state has continued to spend more than it brings in. So the reason they really haven't decided on a budget is because they wanted to keep spending more than they had. So without a budget, we all know what happens when you don't have a budget.
Just keep spending.
Right, exactly. That's forced it to cover core priority payments first, including payroll, debt service, and pensions that total $1.8 billion a month. While those bills include some Medicaid covered payments like health services for children and adults, the state has says there aren't enough funds to include general payments to managed care organizations as a top priority. So Obamacare, right? Also, without a budget, that includes borrowing to pay down the big bill backlog, because that always works really well. Borrow to pay your bills, right? Because then you owe interest to somebody else. Illinois by August will run out of money for key expenses for the first time since the stalemate began. That means school funding, state payroll, and pension payments could be affected. There won't be enough money for these mandated and court-ordered payments. As noted above, Mendoza said this won't jeopardize debt service payments. However, she probably should have added for now. For now, Illinois hasn't missed any bond payments, and state law requires it to make monthly deposits to its debt service funds. For now, despite the Illinois deadline coming and going, the political standoff shows no sign of ending, and now the market is set to react. Investors have already punished Illinois for its fiscal woes, yield of the state, blah, 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 and I really couldn't
Here's the thing.
About their
you had wanted
yields.
to cover this the other day, but I think now is a good time to bring this up. This just came in our mail
yes.
the other day, and for around here, I know schools all over the place have grades that are different. We do a elementary school that goes through 6th grade, and then we have a junior high that is 7th and 8th, and then we have high school that is 9th through 12th. So there is a junior high school that's literally less than 3-minute drive from our house up the street. It's been there since my mom was a kid. It was her high school at the time, and then they built a gigantic high school next door and converted what was the old high school into the junior high, which is for 2 grades. 2 grades. Leah went there. I went there briefly before I was homeschooled. And aside from the fact that there are a couple of classrooms in the center of the facility that have no windows, you know what? For a public school, it works out just fine. It's got a nice gymnasium. They have the high school's track and field in the back. I think it is completely sufficient. However, we got this in the mail the other day saying that they're going to build a brand new junior high school. In addition to the fact that in our community, they have shut down, I want to say 3 or 4 local elementary schools.
And they're building these giant monstrosities. These aren't schools. These are high. These are like...
They're huge.
These are energy burning. Like when we were kids, you had to bring...
It was so hot, you had to have fans.
And you had to bring in water bottles.
Because it was hot.
But now everything is super high-tech.
They have computers like everywhere, big screens everywhere. All the kids use iPads for everything. It's completely...
This is one of their new school buildings that they just completed.
Ridiculous. And they have empty school buildings that they're tearing down. I think this past year or 2, they have torn down 3 schools, 3 elementary schools.
Building these giant schools, you guys.
These ridiculous monstrosities, and what's unfortunate is that these kids aren't even getting a good quality education. People move to our school district because they think that it's a good education, but really it's not.
Milford High School ranked top 5% in the state. Achievements, 2.7 million in college scholarships, the valedictorians, all these things, and then it really says the next phase, and they're building like this giant monstrosity of a library.
They already built, within my lifetime, there was a brand new library that is right up the street. They built, it's humongous in my mind. Dude, our library, we had a card catalog, dude. It's huge, it's fantastic, and now they're getting rid of it to build an even bigger one that looks like a hospital. It's so big.
The next phase of the district's master facilities plans includes replacing Milford Junior High School and Milford Preschool and finishing renovations to Milford High School. The completion of this project requires both local funding through a bond issue. We need some more money, and state funding through Ohio Facilities Construction. The district is anticipating the state blah 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 blah.
Okay, now why did I bring that up? I brought that up to say, listen, when you're a family, and when we were kids, our mom didn't have like any money. We had 0 money. I mean, I can't even explain to you how much we did not have any money. When you want something, you don't get it just because you want it. And when you have a budget and there is literally no money to be spent, even when you need something, you still don't get it, okay? If you're growing out of your pants lengthwise and you're a kid and they're too short, guess what? You can still wear those as pants as long as they fit around the waist. All right? If your gym shoes have holes in them, yeah, you need a new pair of gym shoes. You keep wearing those gym shoes with holes in them. But what they're doing here in Illinois and all over especially here with they're taking they're taking a thing where it's like not even like gym shoes with holes in them or pants that are too short. It's a luxury. They are spending money on luxuries, and they are outspending the budget by millions of dollars, and nobody is holding them accountable.
Here's the thing.
This is absurd.
People want things. They want luxury for their kids. It used to be that 50 families would come together. They would build the building themselves.
For a school.
And then K through 12, they would pay one teacher. Right? But when you start to use other people's money,
it slips right through your hands and you get greedy.
Up through the 30s, 40s, and 50s, people, you know, were a little bit more, they're more budgeted, right? We're using other people's money. Let's use it wisely. But then nowadays, you're using other people's money. We have these giant, in our area, we have these giant homes being built in these fancy neighborhoods, and these fancy neighborhoods demand fancy schools. When you have a $500,000 house, you don't want the old school.
This money, this millions of dollars that are going towards these new schools aren't going to further the education. These kids aren't getting a better education. When I was in public school at Milford, when I was a kid, I got a better education than these kids are getting, and they're spending millions more dollars than when I was a kid.
These are indoctrination centers to teach you to be a worker in the state, and we should end it there.
Well, I can't end it there. This is property tax, and I'm not going to talk about how we can't even afford an increase in our property tax because I'm just not going to go there, even though we can't. But what I am going to do is talk about the families that I know down the street, okay, that are living paycheck to paycheck. Okay, and unfortunately, some of these families, because our street was built so that only black families could buy on this side of the street or whatever, but there specifically is a black family down the street. I can go online and look at their taxes, and they cannot pay their property taxes.
And there's no programs for
this. But they have a garden, okay? They are some of the hardest working people that you will see in our community. They're constantly going out trying to do jobs and clean out gutters and stuff like that.
Mind.
But they could lose their property because
the government
they want brand new stuff.
Every single one of you, okay? Unless you comment on this thing, every single one of you would rather see those people in government housing and have to spend, you know, $1,000 a month on government housing and extra food because you're getting more food stamps because they grow garden, right? And that they're an apartment. Because there are no programs that I know of to help people with property taxes because the government and I don't know of any charity, I don't know of one that helps people with their property taxes.
Which, if you don't know, property taxes are unconstitutional and illegal.
And as our Iranian woman said, we are in just as much slavery as the people in Iran because she says that they don't have property taxes
and they don't have restrictions on having gardens or animals or anything like that. Okay, so here's my point. When you have, this was just an example for us to tell. Leah has been meaning to do an episode on this anyway. When you constantly throw money at luxury things, there's nothing to rein you in. Your financial status as an entire state is going to go into what they called an abyss.
Right.
And it's ridiculous and it's sad, and unfortunately,
well, it's disgusting and greedy because the school district has seen all these giant houses and all these giant subdivisions being built. So all they can do is drip with greed.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
What can we do? We can build bigger buildings. We can build libraries. We can do all these fantastic things. Because all these rich people are moving in and building all kinds of rich
But it's not enough for them to take. See, that's the problem. It's not enough for them just to take the taxes from those property taxes from those new houses.
Right.
But then they get these ideas in their head that they want to build new schools, and then they need even more money. And then the rest of us that live in a house that was built in 1960, what? 1940 something. My family got it in 1965. Okay. This is just, we're just average people, okay? Not building big colossal houses. We don't have the money to be throwing at these kids having more computers and more iPads and bigger buildings and more stuff.
Softball fields.
That's actually indoctrinating them to create a society of zombies. I'm paying for a society of zombies. I don't know who these pictures are. They're Milford people. They could be your children. They're all zombies, every last one of them. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they are.
All right. This is Leah Michelle signing off for Resistance Chicks, where it is not a conspiracy theory if it's the truth. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Mass Faith 3 and Resistance Chicks. Ring that bell for notifications. Find us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. We love you. God loves you. God bless.
And if people really just cared about the education, they would teach kids reading, writing, and arithmetic. You don't need to be in school from preschool till 12th grade.
Right.
And you don't need giant fancy buildings.
In the UK, they only go to school until they're like 16. What are we doing wasting an extra 2 years? When my great aunt Stell was younger, they finished school in 8th grade.
Right.
And she had a quality education. She was actually, kids that graduated with that 8th grade education are more intelligent than these zombies graduating from Milford High School.
But they are really up on transgenderism.
I'm sorry, I'm sick and tired of it.
All the genders.
So as my mom always says, don't just post the problem without the solution. Every single one of our Resistance Chicks viewers needs to seek out what they can do to help others start to homeschool or find out top quality Christian
charter schools,
Montessori's, things like that.
Parenting.
You have to pull your kids from the system because you're continuing to perpetuate it by using it. Every person that has ever sent their child to a public indoctrination center, aka public school, takes government assistance. And you are no better than anybody else on welfare or food stamps or anything like that. Just start there. All right, we love you guys. God bless.
Cold, all alone, no place for